This is the best play in Thursday Night Football. So for Thursday night, we got the Jets going against the Patriots. So something that I want to look at here is we're going to do something a little bit unusual that we normally do. We normally focus on a player prop, but this time we're going to focus on the total. Okay, so let's go ahead and take a look at the total. Let's break the total down and let's see where the value lies within the total for tonight. All right, so the total right now listed at any sports book is around 53. Okay, so it's about 53 right now. But let's go ahead and break down exactly where the value lies here. So the first thing I want to look at here is going to be the pace of play between these two teams. All right, so let's take a look at plays per game. Now, New England, 21st in the league, and they have about 61.2 plays per game. The Jets are 22nd league, right behind them, and they have 59.6 plays per game. Now, why is this important? Because this is the pace of play, okay? When you're looking at a total at an over-under, you want to know what type of pace of play that we're going to be dealing with here. So, right off the bat, you got two teams that are decently slow. Okay, they're not fast-paced teams. They don't get off a lot of plays during the game. But now you can't just base that off of what you're going to choose for the total, just based off of the pace of play. Okay, you have to define exactly how many points they get on average per play that they run. That's a stat that not too many people know about. So let's go ahead and break that down. So we want to look at points per play. Okay, points per play, and then we're going to take that and we're going to average that and multiply it with the plays per game. So let's get these stats down. On offense, New England is 8th at 0.43 points per play. Now the Jets, to no surprise, are 20th, having 0.36 points per play. Now we got the offensive end. We also need the amount that they are allowing, okay, because we need the defensive end as well on this. So on the defensive end, New England is 8th, giving up 0.34 points per play. And then the Jets are 26th, giving up 0.43 points per play. Pretty much they give up exactly what New England averages on offense. So now, based off of points per play and the amount of plays they run per game, doing some math here that I'm going to show you, we're going to be able to come up with a projection of what the score is actually going to be in this game. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take the amount of plays that New England runs per game. We're going to multiply that by what they average on offense, points per play. So if you do 61.2 times 0.43, that's going to give you 26.31. So that's New England's projection within themselves, okay, not versus the defense. But if we take a look at the defense here, we get the Jets giving up 0.43 points per play, which is exactly what they average, what New England averages on offense. So if we do the multiplication there, we're going to get the same number. All right, so we get 26.31 there. So we got a projected score for New England to get about 26.31 points. Now let's do the Jets. Now the Jets average 59.6 plays per game. Let's take that, let's multiply that by 0.36. That's going to give us 21.45. Okay, that's on the offensive end. Then we're going to do the same thing and to what New England gives up, which is 0.34. And that's going to give us 20.26. So this one we got to do a little bit more math here. We got to get an average. The New England one, it's the same thing, so we don't really need to. So let's go ahead and put New England projected score 26.31. Now the Jets, what we have to do here is we have to add these two divided by 2. And that's going to give us 20.85. So now that's going to give us a combined projected score of 47.16 points. Okay, that's going to give us a projected score. So now, when you take and you look at that, we look at what the total is right now. Total is 43. You would think in your head, okay, does that mean I'm going to bet the over? Not necessarily, okay? And I'm going to get into exactly why. Because just because the projected score here is above what the over-under is right now, there's other factors that come into play that I'm going to talk about. First is the pace of play. Okay, the pace of play is working against us if we're looking at the over. All right? Pace of play is not what you want there for an over. You want these guys to be running plays nonstop and their points per play to be pretty high. New England, decently high, but the Jets, everybody knows their offense is pretty much garbage. But let's move into a couple more stats here to kind of see where we could sway and where the value is. So now a key factor in over-unders is pass play percentage. We're going to look at that because in an over, you want them to be throwing the ball. That's what you want. You don't want teams that run the ball because that's just going to keep running the clock. So pass play percentage. Let's take a look at both of these teams' pass play percentage. And might be a little bit surprising for New England because everybody's thinking Drake May, he's just letting it fly out there and they're running a bunch of pass plays. But they're actually not. New England is actually 26th in the league in pass play percentage. And the Jets are 27th. Now that's not too shocking. Okay? But both these teams aren't preferably passing teams. They are more likely to run the ball. And if they see any success in running the ball, they are going to hammer the run. So that's where it takes us into a next layer here, because that's not optimal for an over. It's just not. You want these teams to be pass play teams because that's where you're going to get long bombs and you're going to be able to score and rack up the points without using up so much clock. In this type of game script, it seems like teams are going to want to run the ball, and whoever's going to have success is going to keep running that ball. All right, so let's see who would have the most success running the ball now. Now to find that out, we're going to use yards per rush attempt, okay? Yards per rush attempt, and we're going to calculate that. So first off, New England is one of the best. They're 4th in the league, all right, at yards per rush attempt. They only give up 3.8 on average, so they do not give up big rushing plays on the ground. Now let's take a look at the Jets. The Jets are 21st. They give up 4.5. So that's actually not too good. All right, so game script wise, how it's looking is New England running the ball, being able to dominate on the ground, and the Jets offense not being able to do too much here. Okay, that's what the game script is reading so far. Now, let's go ahead and take a look at the head-to-head trends here. Now, the trends right now are 6-4 favoring the under. So not crazy, favoring the under, but they are favoring the under just by a little bit. But here is the actual big kicker in the game that I noticed. And this might change close to game time because usually it does. But right now, let's take a look at this. All right. If we want to take a look at the bet percentage right now, there's 55% of the bets coming in on the over, while there's money percentage, 60% coming in on the under. So what does this tell me? This tells me that the public is seeing the over here, and they're decently hammering the over. Okay, not by a wide margin, but by a decent margin here. But the smart money and the big money is coming in on the under, because I think the money is kind of seeing where we're looking at here. All right, we have a projection of over what the total is right now, but we have some things that play against that, as in a slow pace of play. They're most likely going to be running the ball a lot. They're going to want to run the ball a lot. New England's probably going to stop the run for the Jets, and the Jets still can't pass the ball. So the Jets' offenses should look stagnant. That's where we're getting the game script here from, is Jets' offense should look stagnant. New England's should just be running the ball because they should have success there with the Jets giving up 4.5 yards per carry. All right? And pass play percentage, they don't want to pass the ball too much. Jets are probably going to be forced to pass the ball a lot, and they still can't convert, okay, because New England's defense is decent. So game script wise, what we just went through, we would look at an alternate under in this matchup rather than the over what the natural number is. Now, to do that, remember the projection that we had, the total. The total projection was about 47 points, right? Let's take a look at the key numbers for totals because that is really what dictates where you're going to land. So key totals in the NFL, let's go ahead and write them down. 43, 44, 47, 50, and 51. Okay, those are the key totals that we're looking at for this game here. 43 is pretty much where it's at right now. That's just the total that you're going to see when you log in. So if we're looking at the under here, and we're looking at projection-wise, where do we have to land? We're going to have to land on the other half of this 47 number, okay? Because if our projection's at 47, we're going to have to land on the under 47.5 because we have to buy a point over that key number. So now they need 48 points for us to end up losing there, where we got our projection at 47. Now, our margin for this is very thin, okay? We don't have a huge, crazy advantage on this game. But this was literally the only other area that you could look at for this Thursday night game because there really wasn't nothing to exploit in the player prop area, in the player prop region. But this was the only thing that gave us a small edge. So, like I said, if you want to roll with this tonight, it's going to be the alternate under 47.5. Now, to go even further, the problem with going even further here is if you went to 51.5, your odds for that are going to be like minus 390 probably. You most likely don't want to do that for a total. No reason to. Okay, so under 47.5 puts us a little bit more comfortable on our projection. We can't go with the over here because this, for example, you can't roll with the over here when the public's all over the over. When the trends go against the under and the pace of play just looks like it should be a slow game to where New England wants to run the ball and use up a lot of clock. So we just can't necessarily pull a trigger on the over just because our projection is over what the number is right now. Okay? That's why sometimes your projections, you can't just base, betting on projection. You have to look deeper into a play to really define what is going to give you the best opportunity. But that's what we're looking at tonight for Thursday Night Football.
This is how the last week has went. Hit 75% with a 9% ROI.